Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Bennett and this is my final presentation for EdTech 651, Introduction to Statistics. Today I'm going to be talking about examining the effectiveness of language instruction educational programs, or LIEPs, within the Idaho context, with a focus on separating and looking at possible relationships between rural and urban districts and schools. Rivatera provides a clear and insightful explanation of the role of statistics in understanding and analyzing phenomena. Recognizing its significance, he introduces this foundational concept in the opening of the 4th edition of Statistics for Behavioral Sciences, the book that we had to read for this class. He underscores that scientific observations must follow specific rules and procedures to ensure accurate data interpretation and the ability to draw valid, evidence-based conclusions. He goes on to say that these procedures are similar to playing a game, that without having these rules to confine the game, there would be no game. And I believe that this was really accented throughout this program, is that having appropriate ways to play the game, such as statistical models and approaches, can allow us to draw very important inferences in the work that we do with behavioral sciences. My focus is on understanding how different language instruction educational programs like dual language programs, ESL models, and others impact EL performance, particularly in Idaho, where rural and urban contexts pose a unique challenge. Dual language programs often outperform other models with long-term academic gains for ELs, but it requires resources like bilingual staff, which may not be feasible in rural areas. ESL models, particularly pull-out or push-in approaches, can vary significantly in their effectiveness based on teacher collaboration and resources available to them. And in Idaho, rural districts often face staffing shortages and limited resources, while urban districts have higher EL populations and may benefit from more diverse instructional approaches. Now, by examining these unique contexts, this study will provide actionable insight to tailor LIEPs to local needs. Federal laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Every Student Succeeds Act mandate that schools not only offer but also assess evidence-based language instruction educational programs to ensure their effectiveness. And Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based on national origin, requiring schools to support ELs with appropriate language programs. The Every Student Succeeds Act, which was reauthorized in 2015, reinforces accountability by requiring evidence-based interventions to ensure ELs make progress in those language acquisition and academics areas. These mandates ensure that public schools implement and evaluate programs like LIEPs to promote equity, but compliance varies across the districts, making research into this effectiveness very, very crucial. The Joint National Committee for Languages, or JNCL, held a congressional briefing addressing the growing shortage of language educators, including world language, bilingual, and dual immersion teachers. And over 58% of U.S. states and territories have faced teacher shortages in these areas for the past 20 years, with projections showing a gap of about 100,000 teachers by 2025. Solutions discussed include funding for bilingual teachers, pathways for sustainable programs. However, this research stands the chance of influencing the follow areas in education. So the significance of running this types of research is very significant. And this includes identifying programs that are effective by identifying and understanding successful bilingual education programs, can help administrators improve language outcomes for English language learners. Also, this could enhance teacher recruitment for each district. So by showcasing effective programs, more educators can be encouraged to join the field addressing that teacher shortage issue. Also, future policy impacts can be identified, And evidence from successful programs can inform policy decisions, leading to better resources and trainings for teachers in the bilingual education space. To ground this research, I reviewed existing studies on language instruction educational programs, and dual language programs show strong results with evidence that students in these programs often outperform their peers academically by middle or high school. But however, Idaho faces challenges in implementing these programs due to the lack of a bilingual educator. ESL programs yield mixed outcomes, and pull-out models can improve language proficiency but may disrupt learning in other subject areas because of that integral pull-out model. And push-in models under the ESL program umbrella are more effective when there are strong teacher collaboration, but this really depends on the staff quality and training of each individual district. And again, context matters. Implementing these LIEPs within the rural versus the urban context can yield different results. One factor to look at is that rural schools and districts struggle with limited resources and staffing. Urban schools often have access to more diverse instructional strategies and innovation, possibly because typically we see universities within those urban areas, but they face other challenges like overcrowding as well. So this study seeks to answer the following research questions. How do different LIEPs, such as dual language immersion, ESL programs, traditional bilingual education, and structured English immersion programs impact EL performance? And are these effects consistent across rural and urban districts? So my research design, which is at the heart of the study, proposes using a quasi-experimental design, which looks at the relationship between type of LIEP and EL student performance score growth, as reported on the Access for ELS Summative English Language Proficiency Assessment in Idaho. Analysis on the scale score growth will be completed for the most recent academic years, 2023 and 2024. The participants are going to be grades 1 through 12, ELs enrolled in one of 4 LIEPs. And those 4 LIEPs consist of dual language immersion, ESL, traditional bilingual education, and structured English immersion programs. The sample will include both rural and urban districts, which allow for a comprehensive analysis of performance outcomes and may confirm if there is a difference in performance outcomes, whether the content is different. For the data analysis piece, I'm proposing to conduct a one-way analysis of variance, or ANOVA, to compare the mean growth in access scale scores across the composite proficiency level of those students in those defined LIEP groups. The primary reason for using analysis of variance, or ANOVA, in this study is to compare the performance outcomes of English language learners across multiple language instruction educational programs. And ANOVA is specifically designed to test whether there are statistically significant differences between the means of more than 2 groups, making it ideal for this study because honestly we have 4 groups of students, those students making the samples of students that make up those LIEP groups. So the independent variable is the type of LIEP, while the dependent variable is the EL students' growth, individual student growth within between 2 Access for ELS summative testing windows. So things to consider after receiving some feedback from classmates is that really the starting proficiency, English language proficiency, matters in the study. Because Idaho's English language proficiency levels consist of 6, we know that beginning proficiency levels acquire English language proficiency skills at a higher rate than students who have had several years in language learning, meaning that the depth of language takes longer as opposed to how the breadth of language, knowing the surface words, tier 1 words, as opposed to, let's say, tier 3 words. And also, this could, we really look at the student themselves. How long have they been identified as an English learner in Idaho? That might really confound the results. Comparing a student who has been within a program for 4 years as opposed to a student who's just coming to Idaho, there could be some confounding factors that we're not aware of. So really limiting possible sample sizes to include only students new to Idaho for the last 2 years might be something to look at. Also, the idea that we can include some qualitative elements within the study could really peel back some of the noise that might be in the data to really interpret if there is a significance between the two LIEPs and their performance scores. Can we understand whether, or if there isn't, can we understand the context better if the administrators and educators within these programs are telling us more information about their perceptions of program effectiveness, how many resources do they believe are being allocated to our English language learners, and then staff perceptions around that LIEP implementation could be really, really useful in terms of how we identify these relationships and or pull them apart. So that will be for some future research. Well, I really enjoyed presenting that to you and enjoyed developing it throughout the class. Hopefully, with some revisions, this study can move forward, and I look forward to seeing if that's a possibility. Again, thanks so much for supporting this work and for listening. Have a great day.